What about what Donald Trump has done since January 20th of this year do you agree with?
Oh, I think the border, security at the border. I think everyone knows we should have a secure border. I beg the Democrats not to do asylum at the border. I think that's correct. I think the crime in our streets, I don't have a problem with doing whatever we can, but you just can't pick people off the street.
You think that he should be putting the National Guard in blue cities to help with crime?
Let me tell you, if I was crime-ridden in my state, if I had a crime-ridden, I'd welcome all the help I could get. Don't leave me in the lurk. Now, they're going to leave sooner or later. Am I going to go back to where I was? Are you going to help me finance this? People want a crime-free area in this, and they want also secured borders. The Democrats should be saying, Mr. President, we made a mistake. We'll work with you on securing the border. Will you work with us on legal immigration? We need legal immigration for this country to continue to be the world power, the economic juggernaut of the world. And also, it's the right thing to do. My ancestors came here that way.
She does say that we should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was, a man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. She goes on to name some of the other things that he believes in. What was your reaction to her vote and her statement afterward?
First of all, I just saw it a little while ago, and I was stunned, Casey. I really was. This is not the place and the time for that at all. If the Democrats, if AOC and the far left, the extreme left, I'm going to say, believe that's where the party, the Democratic Party, is today, then that'll tell you why you lost people like me, and an awful lot. And let me tell you what you've lost since the last election. They've been doing their national tour and thinking, boy, that's something. We're really getting into something. The Democratic Party has lost more than 160,000 Democrats that have basically left the party since November election. So if that's the way the Democratic Party is going, it's getting worse, not better.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about some bad news for the Democrat Party, okay? A party whose leaders are struggling to answer basic questions about the direction of the party, what's going on with some of this infighting, Kamala Harris throwing other Democrats under the bus, okay, for why is it that she lost instead of taking accountability and responsibility. Yeah, the Democrats at this point, they are a lost cause, okay? They're a lost cause, and I think that's becoming clear to the American people.
Better from this administration right now.
Let me ask you about Kamala Harris's new book. She's going to be on with Rachel Maddow tonight, so I'm sure we'll get some insights into that. But the memoir is 107 days. As you know, it recounts her whirlwind presidential campaign. It's out this week. And she lobs criticism at several major players in the party: Pete Buttigieg, Josh Shapiro, Gavin Newsom, all, of course, potential presidential candidates. Is it unhelpful for her to be criticizing people who could very well be on the ballot in 2028?
Well, let me just say this. I think the world of Vice President Harris, and I thought she ran an amazing campaign along with my governor, Tim Walz, in those last 107 days, and she's entitled to her say for sure. What I'm focused on in terms of the last election, and frankly the many years that preceded that, is finding out what worked and what didn't work that can help inform the future so that we win elections again. And that's where my focus is going to be. There's a lot of folks who want a Monday morning quarterback. There's a lot of folks who are looking backwards to try to point fingers and blame. That's not me.
Due respect, Chairman, this isn't looking backwards. This is today, as Democrats are looking for a leader, as Democrats are trying to figure out who could be the person to galvanize our party, to get them excited again. And three big names are people that she has had some pretty critical things to say about.
Well, like I said, everyone's entitled to their say. I'm not going to get involved in any of that. My job is to win elections and focus on how we can actually build power around our agenda and ultimately deliver public policy that improves people's lives. I'm not going to get into the back and forth on that. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. Everyone's entitled to their say. What I'm interested in is making sure the Democratic Party wins again.
62% of the Democrats want to see the leadership of your party replaced. Do these sorts of polls make you rethink your approach at all? How do you view this?
Well, I think I understand why people all across the country, not just Democrats, are disturbed by what has been happening in this country and the extremism that has been unleashed on the American people. And we are in what I have referred to often as a more is more environment. We just have to continue to do more. to aggressively push back against the Trump administration and push back in a manner consistent with American values. More town hall meetings, more protests, more demonstrations, more speeches on the House floor, more speeches on the Senate floor, more hearings that are led by Democrats on the Hill, off the Hill, of course, more site visits throughout the country, standing up in defense of the American people, standing up in defense of law-abiding immigrant communities, standing up in defense of those who are vulnerable, pushing back against the rise of extremism in this country and the targeting of communities of color. We're in a more is more environment, and we have to continue to do more. What I will say is that in special election after special election after special election, we keep winning all over the country. Democrats are turning out in record numbers, and we're defeating Republicans across the land.
My list of things that are bad about this administration is a long one, and I get into it every week. I also think the reason why Trump does so well is because he identifies places where the Democrats did fuck up. And I could go down that list too, like the border, like DEI was out of control, colleges completely out of control, elite universities where the kids are raised to be these anarchist, America-hating anti-Semites, and there is zero diversity of opinion. You know, the hypocrisy of diversity is the greatest thing in the world, except of what we think, which is where it's also very important.
Yeah. So, since the election, right, I've always stated time and time again that Democrats have to find an identity outside of hating Trump. Now, it's almost been a year since the election, and Democrats haven't done that. In fact, they've doubled and tripled down that their only identity is being against Trump. We've seen on every single issue that you can possibly imagine, Democrats essentially either siding with the far left, right, on certain issues, like, for example, illegal immigration, right, because Trump has basically forced them to reveal what they actually believe on illegal immigration, which is that they believe in open borders. They don't believe in enforcing the law, right? That, or when it comes to other kind of softer issues, right, like, for example, free speech, they've been exposed as complete and total hypocrites, right? So I think a combination of those things has shown the world, the American people, that, you know, the Democrat Party doesn't really stand for anything. They don't have any solutions. The only thing that the Democrat Party is about at this point is aligning with the far left on very niche issues and just being against Trump. And that's not going to help them win, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if Democrats can't present any type of solution to all the problems that they boo-hoo, whine, and cry about, they're not going to go anywhere. And CNN was stunned to find out that Democrats are still losing on the biggest issues in the country going into the midterms. Again, we're a year away from the midterms, and Democrats are still getting smoked on the top issues in this country. And I want to talk about it because I think these numbers are fascinating, but it backs up a point that I've been making, again, for a year now since the election, about the Democrats and how anti-Trumpism is not going to get them over the finish line anymore. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
While President Trump's approval rating remains underwater, a new poll shows that most Americans, though, still trust Republicans over Democrats on and handling some major issues, rather. CNN's Harry Enten. Married depends on your perspective, I guess.
I am not married.
I said marry as in happy. Anyway, let's talk about this. What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing? You know, Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime? A big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Look at that. Lead by 22 points.
Yeah, so let's talk about these numbers. Let's break down these numbers. Why is it that Republicans are still leading? They're still dominating when it comes to these issues, right? The big three: the economy, immigration, crime. These are issues that people actually vote on, right? This is what I want people to understand. These issues matter. Well, let's talk about the economy. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, Democrats being in office, the American people experienced the worst inflation in this country since, what, the 70s and 80s, right? A lot of it due to Democrat policies, okay? Now, Trump gets in office, turns out we've learned that Trump inherited a bad economy, right? Because the jobs reports were rigged, that the economy was really bad under Joe Biden, and it was bad when Trump got in office. Now, the one thing I can say about Trump's economy is that we're not experiencing the same inflation that we experienced under Joe Biden. We're not seeing that type of hyperinflation that we were seeing, okay, under Joe Biden and Democrats. So I think that's the main reason why President Trump is currently leading on the economy. And this is actually really good news for the administration, because that means they still have a whole nother year for the effects of the big, beautiful bill to actually take place, for people to actually feel those effects, because it will drive growth, right? The question is whether or not we're going to get the same type of inflation we saw under Democrat leadership under the Trump administration when the effects actually take place. Plus, you have interest rates starting to come down, right? The Feds have decided that they're going to start dropping interest rates. And I personally believe that this is going to be a boost and a stimulus to the economy in the long run. And hopefully, the American people start to feel this in the next year or so, right? I said this from the beginning, and I will stick by this. We can't really judge the Trump economy until like a year or two, at least a year into his presidency, right? Because it takes time for the policies to take effect. I mean, the big, beautiful bill was just passed this summer. It's not been nearly enough time for the effects to take place. Again, we live in a elevated interest rate environment, right, where it's restrictive compared to where interest rates have been in the 2010s, right, pre-COVID, right? So again, interest rates being in restricted territory, coming down, the effects of the big, beautiful bill will start to take place, okay, in the next year or so. I expect the economy is going to get a lot better. Again, the question is whether or not we're going to get that inflation. That remains to be seen. But I think it's going to get better. And again, this is despite the fact that the liberal media and the Democrats have colluded to launch an all-out smear campaign against all of the president's economic policies when it comes to the tariffs, when it comes to everything that the president's doing. The big, beautiful bill is bad. It's negative. It's terrible, right? But despite all that, the American people still trust the Republicans over the Democrats when it comes to the economy. Now, again, why is that? Well, it's because the American people aren't stupid. The American people know that, well, you know, things might not be great right now, but there hasn't been enough time to really judge, okay? And on top of that, things were bad before Trump got in office, right? And inflation is not as bad today as it was when Biden was in office. That is just a fact, okay? So I think that explains that number. And again, it's good that the Republicans are still up on the economy despite all of the propaganda and the fact that the interest rates are just starting to decrease. And on top of that, the big, beautiful bill haven't taken effect yet, right, in regards to companies taking advantage of it and people feeling the effects. Now, when it comes to immigration, again, it's very simple. Democrats have decided that they're going to stand against everything that the president does. As you guys saw at the beginning of this video, Joe Manchin, who used to be a Democrat, he's 100% right. That Democrats, if they were smart, they would be working with President Trump on these issues. But the fact they refuse to work with the president on these issues, it really shows the American people that, hey, Democrats don't have any real solutions, right? They don't really want to come together to solve some of these core issues, right? Like, again, the economy, what have Democrats presented on the economy? What legislation have Democrats presented on the economy? Nothing. They boo-hoo, whine, and cry about it. After, again, being responsible for the mass inflation over the past 4 years, they boo-hoo, whine, and cry about what Trump is doing, but they didn't do anything better. Same thing with immigration. What are Democrats doing to work with the president on immigration? Nothing. They're out here boo-hoo, whining, and crying about the mass deportations, about enforcing the law. But again, what is their solution? We saw what their solution was. It was open borders. So I think that it's very clear. Would the American people rather have what we have going on right now, which is ICE actually enforcing the law, or would they rather have open borders? Okay. But despite all this, again, Democrats are still planning another No King's Day protest, right? Against Trump, basically against enforcing the law, right? This is why they're losing, right? This is why they're losing. Despite, again, all the propaganda from the media and the Democrats on these issues, right? When it comes to crime, same thing. Trump is for being tough on crime. Democrats come out and say, you know what, we're for being soft on crime, right? Crime is actually not a real problem, okay? It's not a real problem in Memphis. It's not a real problem in Chicago, D.C., New York, L.A., all of these crime-ridden hellholes. Oh, see, you don't understand. Crime is not really an issue. Crime is going down, right? They gaslight the American people. They stand against the federal government actually trying to do something about it. And lo and behold, Look at the result. The American people trust the Republicans on crime more because the Republicans are the only party that seem to be serious about acknowledging that it's a problem, first and foremost, and also presenting solutions, right? Ain't it amazing how that works? On all three of these issues, what is the difference between Democrats and Republicans? Republicans, whether you agree or disagree with their solutions, they actually are presenting solutions, right? Democrats aren't presenting any solutions. They're just saying, well, we don't like Trump, right? Trump bad, orange man bad, and that's it. What is the Democrat solution? What's the Democrat solution? They don't have any. They don't have anything. So again, this is why they're losing. And again, this stuff is so easy to predict. But for whatever reason, they haven't figured out. And this is why I've said time and time and time again. Democrats have to understand you're not running against Trump and that you can't depend on these far leftists. These far leftists, that they're not most of the country, okay? You got to appeal to sane people. And sane people are telling Democrats, you know what, we don't think that you have better solutions than the GOP at this point. That's what they're saying.
So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead.
Yeah, it's almost as if CNN is disappointed. They're disappointed that Democrats can't get it together, right? It's almost as if they're cheering on the Democrats. But again, look at this. When Republicans took back the House in 2022, they were doing worse on immigration and crime than they are right now. Now, again, slightly better on the economy, but I'm telling you, it's likely that the economy is going to get better, right? If I was a betting man, and I am a betting man because I have my money invested, right? I'm invested in the Trump economy, so I'm putting my money where my mouth is, okay? I'm heavily invested in the Trump economy. I think the economy is going to get better, right? I think it's going to get a lot better. And if that happens, it's over. I'm telling you, at this point, the only question is the economy. If the economy gets better, it's over. It's over for Democrats.
Again, expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all three issues.
What's the reason that you are finding so far that's driving this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime.
Notice how I don't need a poll to tell you all this stuff because I got common sense, right? When you got common sense like us, right? Like us, you don't need a poll to tell you this stuff. Like, this guy is shocked. I'm not shocked because I have common sense. If you got common sense, you know that sane people in this country, there's no way that you can turn around and trust Democrats on any of these core issues. They have nothing. They have no solutions at all. Nothing.
The bottom line is when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices because at this particular point, even if Republicans or even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party at this particular point. Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
and again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2025, we still find that the Republicans leading on all three of these issues. And of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall as well.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is bad, right? This is really bad for Democrats. Now, keep in mind, again, this is despite the propaganda from the liberal media and Democrats. Again, because the liberal media, they're one-sided, right, towards Democrats. Now, also on top of that, the polls are rigged. So we know that polls are rigged in favor of Democrats and against Republicans and Trump. So that means that the actual numbers are probably a lot worse for Democrats than the liberal media would like to admit. Also on top of that, you currently have a lot of people that are pissed off with the Democrats in regards to how they and their followers, right, their supporters, have handled the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I think that that's also going to be devastating for Democrats as well, too, because I think people are waking up to the fact that, again, the Democrats, they're not the good guys when it comes to what is currently happening in this country in politics, okay? I think people are waking up to that, and they're seeing that, and they're disgusted by what we have seen over the past couple of weeks. That and the fact that they're losing on core issues, I think that they're going to have a hard time, right? I really do think they're going to have a hard time coming up in the midterms. But again, we have a year to go. And like I said, I think all of it really is going to come down to the economy. If the Trump economy can start to get better, which I believe that it will, okay, within a year, okay, as interest rates drop, the cost of capital comes down, as the effects of the big, beautiful bill start to be felt in the economy, I do think that things are going to get better, right? And if things do get better, it's over, right? It's over. That's the takeaway from all of this. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.